Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Draw Comics. Today I will be showing you guys how to convey space and depth in a comic panel, and I think this video is going to be quite interesting. I don't want to make the introduction too long. If you like what you see here, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment, and share my video. And if you would like to see more of my artwork, please go to my Instagram, which is @sedatözgen, or my Facebook, which is @sedatözgenart. Thank you guys for tuning in, and now off to the video. Alright, so the first step here is that I will be showing you guys where the camera is placed and where you as the director or artist should be placed. And the first cube represents the foreground, the second one the middle ground, and the third one represents the background. And as you can see, it's the foreground, middle ground, and background. And I'm now going to use several shades of gray in order to emphasize how detailed the foreground should be compared to the middle ground and compared again to the background. And this is to show you that, the further away the object is from the camera, the less detailed it should be. And this is being conveyed by the several shades of gray that you can see here in the picture. And, it says on the cubes very close to the camera, and far away from the camera. And these only serve as an example for the drawing that I'm going to start now. And you will see that, I am drawing a scene where I'm trying to convey the idea of space and depth in the drawing. And I'm starting with a character. Usually when I am starting to draw a panel or a scene, I am trying to start with obviously with the perspective in order to be placing the characters. And after I place the characters, I build the background, but that will come later. And as you can see, I am drawing a bunch of guys with swords, sort of like barbarians or knights, and they're going to be fighting a monster, troll, whatever you want to call him, since this is the age of the trolls on the internet. Maybe it's a troll, I don't know. And this is going to be showing you how, despite the fact that there is a larger object in the drawing and in the scene, that we will be, that I will be able to still, convey scale and size. In this drawing, I will probably do another video on the topic of scale and size at another point, but the idea of having the giant character in there will help to convey the idea of space and depth. And it will show you that when there is a larger object, and if you look at the drawing, you see that I placed one of the knights next to the troll, and then one laying under the troll. He's probably been killed by him. And this is going to even or further the idea of conveying space and depth, and also giving a little bit of extra drama to the drawing. And now the interesting part is that I have started with the backgrounds, and then you can imagine how big the troll would be in relation to the buildings. And now I have done the underdrawing and the layout, and basically just starting to do some of the cleaner line art. What's important here is that you make the characters or the objects in the foreground detailed, but not not so detailed that it will confuse you or maybe distract you from the main focus of the drawing. Because if you look at the drawing, the main focus of the drawing is the knights heading towards the troll. And I am adding details to the knights in order to make each character look individual and also make them look believable, because you want to make sure that whenever you draw something, it looks believable. You want to have this certain amount of world building in your illustration, because it is very important that the characters that you draw fit into the scenario that you're showing. Because if I would have drawn a bunch of, I don't know, guys in suits, like banking guys or something like that, into this drawing, they would look a little bit out of place. And since the whole scene is looking kind of organic, not very futuristic and very technologically advanced, I gave the knights kind of an outfit that looks believable enough that they would fit into this kind of scenario or this world. And the same thing goes for the troll. I could have probably drawn him naked or something like that, but maybe even trolls have some sort of a culture or some kind of a dressing code or wherever, and we definitely didn't want to show anything that's not appropriate for YouTube. So I needed to make sure that he's wearing something. And and as you can see, the details in the characters that are in the middle and background are less than on the character in the foreground. But when the piece is finished up, you will definitely see that there's that the character in the front isn't in any way or form distracting from the focus of the drawing. And and as you can see, I am now adding more details and shading to the illustration in order to give the whole thing the right amount of believability and make it look realistic, because you always want to make sure that that your scenario, your backgrounds, your characters always look believable and real to a certain degree. They don't have to be naturalistic, but they have to definitely be realistic. And the difference between naturalistic and realistic in this case is that something that is naturalistic will be perfectly perfectly in line with how it looks in nature. And if you go for so-called realism, you only want to make or create the illusion of realism in the drawing so that it looks believable. It could be real, but it obviously isn't real. And the houses, they look like they were made of clay or clay and wood and all the kind of stuff that a less technologically advanced society would be using in order to be building houses. And and I like where the drawing is going. And I am as you can see, I am adding less and less details into the background the further away the objects are from the camera. And that is something very important in order to not to distract the eye, because the more details you add to an object in the drawing, the more focus you will lend to it, and therefore it will distract you from the main focus. And as you can see now, I am adding different shades of gray to the characters in the drawing. And I'm doing that in order to guide the eye a little bit, because the closest character to the camera has the darkest gray in there, and the further away you go, the lighter the gray becomes, and you will not be distracted by what is going on in the background. Now, here's a little break. If you haven't followed me on Instagram or Facebook, please do so, and also subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. Like, comment, and share my video. And now I am already in the stage of drawing the second panel. The second panel will be a little bit different. And once again, I'm using the 2-point perspective here, and I am now laying out some characters in the foreground, and with their help, with the placement of these characters, I am basically directing your eyes, and I am now drawing some characters in the middle ground, and I am not, not perfectly happy with how the focus of the drawing is turning out, and thus I am, not struggling really here, but I am changing it because I didn't have any clear idea what I wanted to do in this drawing before I started it, which is usually not a good thing, but sometimes it can be interesting because you are going to be doing some of the stuff that that's kind of unforeseen, and sometimes can be a good thing. And as you can see, I am now almost finished with the underdrawing. I am not happy with the character turned out in the first attempt, but now I think I have nailed it and made it look kind of cool. And I will make some minor changes here and there, but basically in this stage I have everything that I need for the drawing in order to work. And I am now adding the quote unquote inks onto the drawing, and I am guiding your eyes towards the action in the scene, because, or the focus of the scene, because the characters that are shown in the foreground will not distract you. They are not distracting you because I am not putting any focus on them. I am just placing them there in order to create a composition that I like. And I am also making the characters in the middle ground look, less, not interesting, but less distracting, because they don't make any movements or any, they are not involved in any action. They're basically just standing there, and the only, moving object, or the only object in action here is this guy who's floating, in this, in the sky, or floating around, and is holding that, egg, Dragon Ball, whatever it is. And I am adding some more details to him in order to make him, more the center of our attention. And what I'm also doing here with the middle ground of the environment is that I am building some kind of a dirt road, or stone road, whatever it is called, that is leading towards the focus of our attention. And I'm also building some kind of a frame into the picture, but more about that later on in the video. There's going to be a summary of what I did here in both drawings that will explain everything very quickly and very nicely. And yeah, and I'm quite happy with how this is turning out, because I like the looseness of the drawing, I like the characters, I like the movement and everything that's in there, and especially like this big head of, their deity, or whatever it is that they are worshipping there. It looks like he's, giving the Dragon Ball to this deity. And what I'm doing now is that I am adding the gray tones to the characters in the foreground, and I am using the so-called cell shading technique that is often being used in anime, where you just have two layers of shading there. And I wanted to test if this may work out better than just adding flat colors, and I thought, hey, this would be a nice chance to do that. And by adding, two shades of gray to each character, I make them a little bit more, three-dimensional, I think. And it also shows the light source, which is obviously coming from this egg, Dragon Ball, whatever that artifact is, and I think it's, you know, turning out nicely. And now I am adding some more light gray onto the drawing in order to create this illusion of light. And yeah, and now there's going to be the summary. As you can see, everything in the first panel is directing our attention towards the troll in the center of the drawing, and these cubes, which I am using for the background for the environment that is in this drawing, help us to create this illusion of space and depth. And same goes for the characters. The characters get the red cubes here, and yeah, and this is basically how I arranged the drawing. And in this piece, in the second piece, you can see the focus is being guided towards the floating character in the lower part of the two illustrations. And I have built a frame by you know, using those characters in the foreground and middle ground that will lead us towards the floating guy and the deity that is being worshipped. And this concludes the video. If you're not following me on YouTube yet, please do so. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my Instagram and Facebook. Thank you very much for tuning in, and see you next week. Bye bye.